The Gospel of St. John, chapter 19, verse 30. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. One of the many events postponed this year because of the current coronavirus pandemic is the London Marathon. I was thinking about this in connection with the word finish, a version of which Jesus uttered with his last breath on the cross. And it occurred to me that one of the most positive uses of the verb finish is on the banner above the finishing line of a marathon. What joy and relief runners feel when they reach the finish, and each one is applauded and cheered, whichever position they are in, because they have made it to the finish. Agonized and exhausted they may be after miles of running, but they all crave with every sinew of their body to get to the finish. It is clear from the unique way that John's Gospel presents the story of the passion and death of Jesus that John wants us to know and believe that this was not ultimately an ending. Jesus was not finished by this. On the contrary, shocking and scandalous as it was for God's anointed one to end up on this instrument of torture, convicted as a traitor, John wants us to have faith that this was a victory. What was finished when Jesus died on the cross was the work that Jesus had been sent by God to do. It was finished in the sense that it was completed, as marathon runners complete their race when they cross the finish line. Several times throughout John's Gospel we find Jesus speaking about the work God had given him to complete. When Jesus prayed for his followers and for the world just before he was arrested, he said, "I glorified you on earth by finishing the work that you gave me to do." These words of Jesus then tell us that Jesus' death on the cross revealed the glory of God's love for us in all its fullness. As marathon runners also know, the finish line, whilst a moment of glory, is also a moment of judgment. The race is run, the result in. It cannot be run again or undone. So it is with Jesus' work to save us. The work he has done now stands for us, is there for us, either to receive or reject, in faith or otherwise. It's probably no coincidence, since the words of the Gospel are rarely chosen casually, that the phrase "gave up," which the Gospel uses to describe Jesus' final passing, as in gave up his spirit, literally meant handed over. In the Greek language of the Gospel, it is the same word used to describe Jesus being betrayed by Judas. Judas handed over, gave up Jesus to his enemies. But there is another kind of handing over with which we are familiar. It is the giving and receiving of gifts. This is the kind of handing over which requires that we relinquish some of our own will and power. When we give a gift, we let go. We cannot predetermine how it will be received, and so we accept vulnerability and we give of ourselves for the sake of another person. The handing over of a gift, when it is both offered and received as gift, is a moment when life is affirmed, relationships are created or strengthened rather than destroyed, the otherness and uniqueness of another person are celebrated. And so Jesus, John is telling us, offered his life to God freely, gave his finished work, trusting utterly in God to receive it and use it for the good of the whole world. In so doing, Jesus offered his completed work as a gift of love to us. How we receive that also is now in our hands. When we receive this gift, our lives and the life of the world can become abundant and ultimately eternal. Eternal God, in the cross of Jesus, we see the cost of sin and the depth of your love. In humble hope and fear, may we place at his feet all that we have and all that we are, through Jesus Christ our Lord.